Hi, everybody. I'm going to do a little walkthrough on how to use Canva, which is one of the many possible infographic template websites. I haven't actually used this one before, so we're going to walk through it newly together. I just signed up. I didn't sign up for a pro account because that costs money. So I'm just doing this free account. And as soon as I signed up, I put in my email address, and it took me to a page that asked me if I was a student or a teacher. I put in student, and then it asks me which type of template I would want. And I selected infographic. So that's where we are now. So you can start with a blank infographic, or you can choose from one of these many templates, right? So you can look at these and see if there's any you like, if maybe one matches your overall topic better, or you like maybe some of the images they've used. You're hopefully looking for ones that say free here. All of these should be free. If anything's not free, it'll have this little crown symbol on it. And you'll find that a lot, which is super annoying. So I'm sorry about that. So you could start with one of these, or you can just start blank. And what I'm going to do is start blank because often working with these templates is really restrictive and you end up having to delete a bunch of elements anyway. One thing I will say is that if you do start with a template, you would want to kind of play around with all the buttons, right? So give yourself a few tries of, there's a button that says decouple or degroup. That's a handy one because in those prepared templates, they have grouped a bunch of text together. So it's all connected. So if you want to edit an element, you have to degroup it so that you can do that. Okay, so I'm not going to do a template. I'm going to just start my own. So first thing I'll do is I'll add a heading, and maybe I'm going to look through these options to see if there is some font that I like. So maybe I like this one that says design proposal. Ooh, how do I add it in? There we go. Just took a little while. Okay, so we'll delete this one. Sorry, I just realized that I was using my tablet form and that I didn't have my keyboard attached, and that was going to be crazy annoying. Okay, so I'm gonna make this larger. Go into full screen mode. And then I guess before I go into full screen mode, I'm gonna have to make it bigger. Okay, so, oh, apparently full screen mode is only for looking at it when you're done. Let's say I want to, my project is on coral bleaching. So I'll do coral bleaching as my kind of main title. And maybe I don't want this smaller text up here. But I do want this to be up at the top. So here's that annoying thing. I'm going to click ungroup so that I can move all these things around. I'll take coral bleaching and I'll move it up here because it's important. So I want it up at the top. And let's say I want it to be just one line across the top. So then I can change the font to be different sizes to just go all the way across the top. So smaller than 48. There we go. So coral bleaching, and then maybe I'll have a subheading that goes with it that is about climate change. So how does climate change impact coral reefs? Excuse me. Maybe I want to change that font because I've just decided, you know, I don't like any of these fonts anymore. So any of these ones that don't have the little crown on them, those are free. So let's say I want it to be lighter than my title. And I can just pick some other font up here. Which is taking a while. Okay. So I have my title, it's in bold, and then I have my kind of subheading of what I want people to be thinking about. Now, because this is an infographic, you want to be thinking about imagery. How do you communicate using images? So I could put in some coral. And most of these are paid ones. So I'm going to scroll around and see if I can find one without a little crown on it. Here's one and here's another. Here's another one. Let's say I like this one because it's purple and blobby. So I click on it. And it's going to show up here. And I can change the colors that it is. So if I don't want it to be these purple colors, and so we have this medium color purple, a darker purple that makes these lines, and this pink that makes these. So I can change those. I can choose my own color. Maybe I want it to be an orange coral. So we'll have this yellow up here, and then this purple will be more of an orange. And then this darker purple line here. Maybe I want to keep it darker to keep going with that theme. We'll do something like that. So I can design my own kind of color scheme with this so it still matches what I'm doing. So you'll find a lot of images that aren't quite what you like, but you have many customization options, which is pretty fun. So notice that it's behind this text. If you wanted it to show up in front for whatever reason, which you probably don't, you can go up to position and then you can move it forward. And we see it jumped in front of this one, but not this one. So this is the order that I worked on these, changes kind of their position. And then I can move it back again if I want to. You can move things all the way forward or all the way back when you have multiple layers. So I can put in, maybe because I'm thinking about complexity, I want different shapes and sizes of corals. So now I have another one here, which I could change if I wanted to, but now you know how to do that. Oh, I accidentally put in two, I guess. Sorry, my tablet kind of is annoying because I'm not very good at using it because it's new to me. Come on. Oh, God. Watch me flail. Okay, so I have my corals here up at the top. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this text box and add a new one. So the first thing that you want to do, right, is you have what you're talking about, and maybe you have a question about it, maybe not. The way that you present these can communicate more about your topic if you'd like it to. So let's say I give myself a background here. That gives me the opportunity to do some stuff with my text color. So here, maybe because I'm talking about bleaching, I want to have that be meaningful. So I can make it white, right? Coral bleaching. And maybe here, I'll pick this sort of coral color and add some color to my title. So here we have coral and now coral bleaching, right? Where it's white. So that's communicating some kind of information. about my topic. And even here, I could edit this one so that it's maybe in the process of bleaching. So many things you can do to kind of play around with your imagery. But what you don't want it to do is make it more difficult to read. Okay, so let's say I want a distinct line here between my title and the rest of the information. I can scroll around in these elements and find shapes. I can find frames that I can put images within, charts, stickers, but here I'm looking for lines. So there's going to be a lot of options here. Maybe there's going to be some that are on my theme. So let's say I wanted to get real fancy and use this line here, because it looks sort of like a wave, like the ocean. This takes up a lot of space though, so maybe I'm going to change my mind. And use something more basic, like this white dotted line here. And I want it to go all the way across, but let's say, because if I make it bigger, those dots will get bigger. So if I want those dots to stay small, then I can just copy and paste it. So it goes all the way across. So you have a lot of options to play with your template. So then I'm going to have my title. The next thing I want is to introduce people to my topic. So I'm going to do a brief introduction to my topic. And maybe I want to give that brief introduction the heading, right? A brief introduction. And then I want to couple that with some information. So here's the main point, right? Something about extent of coral bleaching and importance of corals. Maybe I'm going to just have text in this little block and nothing else. And I can change the size of it for how much information I'm going to put on here, but I really want to be careful about when I do put information on, making sure it doesn't get so small that people can't read it. You are trying to convey as much information as you can using graphics, right? And using as little text as possible. But people can still read, but you don't want a whole paragraph. So keep the text large enough that people could look at it if it was in a poster form. And don't say too much at once, right? We're taking these bite-sized ideas and leaving them as little crumbs so that people can find their way to the point that we're making. So then let's say I want to put in some data. So let's look at the charts that they have. And you only want to use these charts if they are, like if it's a pie chart, you want it to be accurate percentages, right? And if it's some kind of chart like this, like a bar chart, you want that to be accurate percentages, unless you're just showing overall trends. So you could have, some kind of line graph that's depicting increases, and you can say what those are, I think. How do we edit this? Let me pause while I figure this out for a second. Did it. Simple. There's this button here that says edit. So click on this, and then you can edit these different points. So maybe these are dates in the past. Maybe this is 1990. And maybe you have this data in some paper that you read. It could be 2000 or 1200. And whenever you do put figures on a graph, you want to make sure that they are evenly distributed from each other, spaced from each other. So proportional. Maybe we could put 20, 30. Maybe this is a projection for where we think they're going, right? So then we'll put in our figures here and our graph will change. So this does actually allow you to edit these charts, which is pretty cool. So maybe 1990, we had 750 square kilometers. And then we went to 500 square kilometers. This would be, I think, pretty small, but who knows? And then it maybe jumped back up to 550, but then started going down again. Then you can add more things. So feel free to kind of play around with making and editing these charts. And then if you don't want it, you can just delete it. So these are all options. They're grouped by colors, but they're all editable. So use data, right? So let's just put in some that I'm not actually going to use. You want these graphical elements to communicate your data. So maybe I would say, changes in reef area. This would show an increase, which would be the, or we could change is in reef area, but it could be bleached, let's say. And obviously, you don't want to just be making up your data. You're using real information that you have from your research. But I'm just making stuff up because I'm just trying to show you how to use this tool. So we have some graphical information here that people can look at, see what you're talking about very easily, and then see a trend. They won't necessarily have a contextual reference for your figures, depending on how familiar or not common people might be with your topic, but they will have the ability to interpret that trend and increase. So then maybe we want to have a big number as kind of an attention grabber. So let's say 50% here. And then we'll add a little bit of body here to explain this giant figure we have. So 50% is a large number, right? It is half. So maybe we have some information about half of all coral reef area in the United States was lost in a single large bleaching event in 2005 due to a large warm mass of water or something like that. Oh, welcome to my computer and my internet when I'm trying to record stuff for you. We'll see if I lost everything. That'd be pretty fun. Awesome. Okay, so I need this box to be different proportions. But will it let me make it taller? Maybe not. Anyway, you'll have to fool around with these tools and see what kind of progress you can make before I get too kind of frustrated because I'm being watched. So you want to add your introduction to your topic and then give your evidence for why your topic is important. So that could have to do with the ecosystem services that are provided by reefs, why corals are important to us. I definitely need to address that. I also need to address the change in corals, that we are seeing bleaching and at what rate, so that I'm conveying that importance. So this whole section should be devoted to what your topic is and why it's important. Your last part should have to do with what we should do about it. So that's kind of the three main parts. Your brief introduction to what your topic is, your piece about why it's important, right? And so that is going to be very data driven, lots of evidence, lots of figures, and this is where you'll put more imagery. And then the last part would be solutions, right? So what do we do about it? So maybe I want to keep my same theme here. And I think I can select multiple. So I can just take this whole line and copy it, paste it and move it down. That's going to take a while. Move it down. Right, so I have my data there, why it's important, and now I'm going to have a section about what can we do. And I'm going to provide potential solutions, right? No more than 3. A big list of vague solutions is not going to help anybody. Vague solutions in general are not going to help anybody. You want to give people specific, actionable solutions. So what can a person do about coral bleaching? Is the solution that people need to try to reverse climate change? That on its own is not a solution, right? What can I do? What am I going to do as a non-scientist, a non-politician, if somebody just says we need to reverse climate change? I don't know, right? So give me something actionable. Is there a petition I can sign, or a piece of legislation that's going through that I could vote for? Is there something specific that I can do as a individual? So maybe I need to make sure that the sunscreen that I'm using doesn't have a specific chemical in it. That's something very actionable that I as an individual can do. So that is what your solution should be based on, these actionable things that people can do. Unless you are kind of pitching this to politicians, or you're pitching this to particular institutions. So maybe you are going to tell some sunscreen industry that they need to stop using some particular compound. What is their alternative? What can they use in that place? And this is, again, where you need to be researching these viable solutions. So in your solutions, you should be giving us some kind of data or evidence to show that your solutions would work and why. Okay, I think that's enough for now. The other thing, when you're done with these, if you try to download them, it may let you download it. So let's see what happens. Every once in a while, it'll say that you need to register or have a paid, see? Okay, cool. It's still letting me download it. So I'm just going to continue editing. I'm not going to get pro. Some of these websites will ask you to have a paid membership before you can download it. Don't do that. Either send me your login information and I can go in and look at it, or send me just a link to your design, or take a picture of it, right? Any of those are possible options for you so that you don't have to pay to use these websites. Let's see what my product is here. Cool, a very rough infographic, but we have some idea of what I'm trying to do there. So I encourage you to play around with these things, make them beautiful, make them understandable and approachable. Don't make the text too small. This text would be way too small, right? So have fun.